All right. It's been a video marathon. I get it. You know, it's the same scene, but this is the last question from the student community in spatial thinking. And the question was, how do we advance technically throughout our career in architecture, but remain having a fresh approach to design? Now, this was sort of saved for last because in the previous two videos about the difference between the business side and the art side of architecture, this sort of touches upon that. Okay. And so, how is it that also myself, I've remained still having a fresh approach to design, even though the career of architecture has waxed and waned, or also peaked and troughed, is that they could be considered as separate things. Now, that can't be really said for a lot of different professions. You know, maybe if you're an accountant and if you really love numbers that much, that it becomes a vocation, then maybe you can separate the art of numbers and accounting versus the profession of accounting. But with architecture, we're sort of blessed a little bit with this schizophrenia, but also the power of the two, that you can have all these great social, cultural, historical, you know, ideas and the art of ideas alongside an actual profession that pays you. Okay. So it's a blessing, but it's also a conflict. And that is somehow understandable. Just like everything else in your life, you've got to feed yourself, you've got to earn a living, but it doesn't mean that's how you have fun, or that doesn't mean that's the purpose of your life. And it should be conflict in that sense. How do we do it so that we remain fresh with design, but still advanced technically? I suppose that would be one of my answers, to sort of delve into those two somewhat separately, but also wanting those two things to be the same. Now, if you are able to separate the business side of things from the art side of things, then great. If you're practicing the art of architecture as a hobby, and then you separate that from the business side somehow, that's got its pros and cons, because the business side of things might not pay you as well as some other professions. And that might not be extremely healthy anyway. I don't love doing things that I don't love doing. And so I don't think I can separate the art and the business side of things. Yes, it causes me conflict, but it doesn't mean that I don't expect the conflict either. It used to cause me more conflict as a student or as a graduate or whatnot. But as I've gotten older, sure, I've learned to sort of live with both. It's still a mind job to try and work this all out, though, to figure out why architecture is like this compared to the other great things about it. So, you know, and being the definition of maturity is to sort of be able to meander between conflicting ideas. And so my answer to remaining to have a fresh approach to design throughout your career, whilst dealing with the technicalities of your career and the business of your career, is that to maintain and to choose to sort of have that approach, regardless of the technical side of things. In the personal process within the spatial thinking framework, there is one of the core principles, which is belief. And according to spatial thinking, belief is defined by believing something that doesn't exist. It's defined by the word faith as well. Holding on to an idea, your ability to hold on to an idea that doesn't exist, or a concept or a belief that doesn't exist, defines how well of a designer you become. Because design in essence, a design proposal in essence, is not yet real. And how much you believe in that idea, that design proposal, and how good you are at doing it determines how much you're going to fight for that design proposal. And your design career is a little bit like that. How much you fight for maintaining the freshness or the excitement or the inspiration, and how much you allow the profession to drag you down, or how much you allow other people to drag you down, or how much you fail to bring your own agenda or to fight for your own agenda. That is the challenge, right? And that is that personal process that I teach. Now, not many of my students tackle the personal process because we're so entrenched in the whole design process that a lot of my students don't really get into. There isn't enough time, I suppose, or we don't get into that personal process side as much. But that is not to say that it doesn't affect it. And so when I go through my portfolio, even from way back as a student, all the way through my career to the current projects that I've done, there is this sense of freshness and design and something that I'm trying. And whilst it's second nature to me, it is, interesting to have to try and teach that to others. And so it is possible, but it does require a mix of idealism, a bit of, a bit of, I suppose, courage, but you do need some grit. And from my perspective, there is a way to teach grit as well, and teach sort of push and fight, fighting for things. And that needs to come in a separate video. Otherwise, I could keep going on and on and on about how to sort of fight for your agenda. But that would be my answer. How to maintain that fresh approach would be something that you need to fight for. Now, if the effort to fight for a fresh approach to design is hard and you struggle with it and it feels like it requires a lot of effort, if you can do it so that it becomes more and more like second nature, like riding a bike, then it becomes easier. And I'll again save that for a separate topic, but that would be ways to sort of, build in your approach and your mindset and design process, build it in to your personal life so that it becomes easier and easier to do whilst being aware and appreciating the nature of conflict with reality. End of the day, everything that you know about life is made possible through inefficiencies. Money is made from inefficiencies. And whilst many people think that I love talking, and I do in a way, but it's not so much the talking part. There's so much that you could trace back to the theories and the philosophies of things. And just understanding that could help you appreciate things. And that's why there is this core process in the spatial thinking framework called the ideas process. And the ideas process is simply talking about having a bunch of ideas can transcend everything you understand about everything. And so let me sort of finally implant this idea that it is the inefficiencies of life that give you your current life. Without these inefficiencies and a yearning towards or a aligning towards efficiency, without those struggles, the life that you know right now wouldn't exist. If we had a truly efficient society, you might even be bored. Things will work too well. If you have inefficient, you'd have anarchy. It is that struggle, and we can't live one without the other. Again, we'll get into that potentially one day, but that inefficiency is intrinsically part of everything, as well as the pros and cons of every profession, and you should accept that as part of the conflict between maintaining a fresh approach to design, as well as trying to maintain improving your technical skills in the profession. Okay.